class, you will learn how to get all the movements and exercises that you did on the free motion quilting crash course here in our channel and put that in a real life block of a real quilt. Yay! Okay, quilters, this is so exciting because you've learned with skills and in an easy way and tackling problems how to do arcs and the high tension design. Now you're gonna add up to your skills the actual knowledge on how to use them on a real life quilt. We are quilting a for real block and you're even gonna grab a bite on the orbital quilting architecture method because you're gonna see how we use those simple movements to create amazing custom quilting on a continuous fashion, free from stitching in the ditch and all this not so fun stuff. So grab your practice utensils, grab your beverage, and let's get started with the last class in the free motion quilting crash course by Orbital Quilting.
Alright, so we have this block star.
The sawtooth star, it's so common and amazing for beginners and advanced quilters.
And we have these two borders to do everything continuous. And we're just going to use the straight lines and the arcs you already did on the free motion crash course. We're going to start right here, and the first thing we're doing is a diagonal line coming to this corner of the star. So this is our first orbital transition, and from here I'm already going to do this square right here. Now you can see that this square has a size that is fairly big for us to do in comparison to the tips of the star or this square, for example.
Especially to quilt all of this within the size of a domestic sewing machine throat. So it's a lot of space to free motion quilt at once.
Exactly. So if we were going to look at this and do it once, maybe, just maybe, we would do an arc like this. So this arc is way too big to do on a sewing machine, especially if you're a beginner. That's why we're going to divide this square and find the middle point here.
So we just do a dot because we like stars. This is the orbital quilting. Of course, our free motion quilting is loaded with those references, but actually Natasha just showed you, it's just slicing the shape in the middle in the horizontal and vertical directions, so you have 4 little squares instead of 1. Because of the way we are quilting, we don't need all those markings, we just need the center. So exactly. This is a very great tip for beginners because then you can manage the space much better.
Now what we're going to do here, remember, we are treating this as this little square. And I am going to look at this square and I'm going to make one arc going to this corner, but I'm not going to touch the corner here, and then I'm going to the middle.
And this space can be as close or as far away from this corner as you want. When I quilt this, I quilt it very skinny, yeah. And Natasha quilted very large, almost touching this corner. So this is why having the skill and the movement in your body is much more clever and much more beginner friendly than trying to copy any free motion quilting design, because when you copy a design, you bring the information from the external to the internal, to your body. And how you are learning in this class, you're learning to use the movements you already have in your body to create the design in the most comfortable way to you.
Once you have reached the center, we're going to repeat this now on this other little square. So I'm going to make one arc close to this corner that I'm not touching, and then I will touch the corner. Now I'll be doing the same thing all over again. Look at this corner here, make one arc pointing out to it without touching it, and then go to the center. and then repeat this to the corner.
Touch the corner.
Touch the corner. Yeah.
Aim the corner. Touch the corner.
Touch the center now.
Yeah.
So aim the corner, touch the corner. Aim to the corner, touch the center. And now that we have done this, we are going to finish this little one here, this body here. And here's our middle square. Now, if you recall, this that we're doing is exactly the same thing we did on the class on which we have done the 3 amazing designs for motion quilters beginners.
So you already know how to quilt this, and you already know how it's more comfortable to you, and yours may look very different than ours, but it doesn't matter because you will have a standard in your body, so they will all look cohesive, and that's why this is so amazing.
Alrighty, now we have just done the first orbit right here in the middle, and now we're going to the second orbit, that is this
the points of the star.
Yeah, and now we're going to use arcs again. And remember, we are here. We just entered the square from this point. We did the square and we are here in this orbital transitional point. And now we're going to the second orbit, making an arc that aims to the corner and doesn't touch it.
So it's exactly the same thing that you did here, aiming to this corner and then going to the center, but now you aim to the point and then you move to the next point.
Yeah, so aim, corner, aim, corner. And for this part, the same conversation about your natural skills are important to remember, because you can have this as distant or closer to this corner. So it's not a rule to do the way I am doing here. You're just going to follow your movement the way it's comfortable for you. And now we're moving to the third orbit around the star, and now it's time for our straightish lines doing the high tension design. So from here I'm going to continue this square on the diagonal, doing this, and now I'll put high tension design on the triangle. So diagonal straight lines going all the way to the edge of the border and the tips of the star. So I want to be close to these areas instead of doing this, for example. No, what I want to do here
is to fill out the space.
Fill the whole thing. So go all the way close to the edges.
And what is good is that because this is just straight lines, you can take your time and stop on each point here. So they are very, very easy.
Yeah. Go stop, 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 stop. So they're also very manageable on a sewing domestic machine for free motion quilting. We're just going all around the star, filling these white areas. And now, the only thing we need to care is that we have to touch this point again. So instead of finishing here, for example, I need to go, I'm close enough to touch this point. So now I'm going to come back to where I started. Yeah. So this already has been continuous, but now we have these borders to do it continuously as well. Now you need to remember that in the description you're going to find a link to get the whole free motion quilting crash course and the PDFs. Okay, so go there and you have this whole amazing thing for you to consult and do your own amazing star continuously. Yay! Alright, so now let's go to the yellow border, and what I'm doing here is arcs, and this time in a very fun way that is going to be like this. I am going to make different sizes of arcs.
So you don't have to worry about any type of inconsistency, because the goal here is to have variety. So
Yeah.
Just do what is comfortable to you.
Yeah. And once you're getting close to the end of your border, what you're going to do is it's an arc, but it's going to be like half of this full arc, let's call it like this, coming to the blue border. And now we have the magic of another Orbital board, just so you can see here. But of course, if you were doing this, we would just erase the board.
Yeah.
But we want you to see how this is going to play. Once we have touched the blue border, this is another orbital transition point. We are now putting the high tension design here because it's such a beautiful design. Now at this point, I want you to make the high tension also coming to the edges of your border. So the arcs don't go to the edges because we have very different spaces here. But for the high tension, you're going to make them the same tall, let's say. And you can see here that I am already saving the space of the binding, which you can trace on your fabric if you want, or just aim for that 1/4 inch.
And of course, if you just quilt a little bit and your bind covers it, don't panic. It will always be a good quilting at the end.
Exactly. Now, the one thing we need to pay attention once doing this is that we need to finish this at this point, okay, right here, the internal area, internal point of this border, instead of this one closer to the edge.
When it touches the two pink squares.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, inside the pink square, we're going to repeat this little baby here. That is a diamond. So we're going to make one arc aiming to the corner but don't touching it, and then another one, and then repeat aiming and touching. This is what we're going to do. Now from here we're going to go to the high tension design on this direction, and for the sake of it, what we're going to do is this.
For the sake of fun.
Yeah. Now this won't exist, of course.
Of course.
So just do your high tension here and
all over the blue border.
Exactly. And again, the only thing you need to worry about is to finish this touching the yellow border. And then we're going to repeat what we have done before. So half an arc. Let's
one arc to the base.
Yeah, and then have fun with your very different arcs here. And once you touch this area, now it's time for you to do the same diamond that we had here. Let me just take this out. So you can aim to the corner, touch the corner, aim to the corner, touch the corner, and voila, this would be the point on which you started and finish your quilting.
Oh my god, this is so amazing! Can you believe we did everything continuously, and this looks so amazing with just 2 simple movements and counting with wonkiness and uneven movements? Let's see how this plays on our sewing machine. So just like you already know, we start free motion quilting by securing the needle thread with our left hand and then maneuver the needle down and up until the thread is loose, and we can slide the sandwich toward us and bring the bobbin thread up. Now we secure all the threads, bobbin and needle, and sink the needle again. So I am moving my quilt always in the same position so you can see the path, but remember that once you are on your quilt on your machine, you can always rotate your quilt sandwich to have more comfort, okay? So first, straight line until this corner, needle down. It's a good set for you right now, and I'm gonna use my scissor as a marker, as a presser here, to show me the middle. So this middle doesn't have to be perfect. And now one arc and other arc to the center. One arc, another arc to the corner. Check always your toilet paper margin to see if it's not folded under your quilt. And then again, and then go to the center, and then aim here, stop when it's comfortable, and then go to the corner. Again, aim here with an arc, and then to center. And then again, aim here, touch the corner, aim the other one, and touch the corner, and then aim and touch the corner. So everything is quite small and everything looks very, very good because I was very comfortable on quilting this space much more than I would quilting this bigger square. Yeah. So now one arc to the center of the triangle and one to the corner. Again to the center and to the corner. Because I'm very far from the point, I'm saying center to my brain, and then center, and then next. Right here, center, and then next, and then center, and then next, and then center, and then next. So because we are quilting just one at a time, we have plenty of opportunities to stop and arrange the quilt sandwich and then continue our movement. They are very, very small. As you can see here, the arcs are very small, so they are very, very easy. So now I'm right here on our orbital transition point. So what I'm gonna do is hit the other orbit. So I'm not gonna make this quilting very close, so those straight lines will not be super close, but you can quilt them as close as you want. Right here I'm giving myself a little space, and then touch, stop, touch, stop, touch, stop, touch, stop. It's always good to remember that you can stop. So you don't get caught up in a hush situation. So now I'm gonna quilt this on a diagonal, but remember you can quilt this on vertical, which will be way easier just by turning, rotating the quilt, right? So don't be shy and turn your quilt sandwich whenever you want. So now I'm gonna remove this pin because I don't want to hit the pin once I'm going back with this straight line. And this is very good practice if you're using printed fabrics and the right color of thread. This will be a lot of fun. Right here, remove this pin, and then come back. Go to the point, give myself some space, and then more star. Right here. Amazing. So I'm kind of going pretty fast because I want you to see the whole thing. But remember, you can always stop at any point. You can always rearrange your quilt sandwich. You can always stop at the points to make this a good and fun experience for you. So I dare to say that I am having the most fun because I really love the high tension design. And now going to the corner. So when we get close, we go to the corner right here. And now we are ready to hit our borders. So I'm gonna do one arc and stop, and another one and stop. And if your arcs are kind of wonky, that's okay, because after you wash your quilt and you get that beautiful texture, nobody, not even you, will see that wonkiness. Now the arc to the orbital transition point, so we can hit our blue border right here. And again, I want to remind you, I'm quilting this in with the sandwich always in the same position. First, because I already have the skills to quilt any movement in any direction I want, and so this is possible to me. And most importantly, because I want you to be able to see the circuit of the continuous path we created with Orbital Quilting Architecture, so you can have that reference crossed with what you saw on the orbital board with Natasha's explanation. And then it will be very, very easy for you to follow this path. So now I'm making this. Remember, if your straight lines are kind of wonky, it really doesn't matter. So I cannot see beyond much, like 1 inch beyond the free motion quilting foot, but I know that we are getting closer to the square where I have to land, because I can see the first square right here. So those are good things for us to remind ourselves when we have to start to pay more attention. So this is it. I can actually see where I have to land. So from here, I'm gonna remove the pin right here. Let me show you. Right. And then one arc and another one. And then aim and touch. action. So now we are moving to the other, through this orbital transitioning point, to the other blue border. And again, I'm gonna quilt the high tension design. And I will always remind you that you can stop and reposition your hand every single time you do a straight line. And they can be as far apart or as close together as you want them to be, or as it's possible for you. As long as you're comfortable, they'll be consistent and they will look great. Believe me. And now I'm hitting the end, and we can see why the orbital toilet paper margin is so important. It would not be possible for me to quilt this whole area without the orbital toilet paper margin. So now I'm gonna get to the yellow border and we'll finish this with an arc, and then an arc, and then an arc again, and then another arc, and then a tall one, and the last one will be a medium one. And to finish our amazing orbital quilting architecture quilt, we'll do a last diamond here. So aim and touch, and then aim and touch. And I bet you are super curious to see how this turned out. You've learned on the Free Motion Quilting Crash Course how to distension, how to keep your stitches consistent on size, how to prepare a sandwich perfect for beginners, how to do your first movements with neuroscience and constructing skills in your body, and even how to custom quilt the sawtooth block with sashing or borders with a continuous path from Orbital Quilting Architecture. So I bet you want to learn how to free motion quilt even more movements, even more designs, and all your quilts with a continuous path. So to build the neuroscience skills from your brain to your body, we have the Domination program. And of course, if you already are super confident with your free motion quilting, even if it's a beginning, but it's more important for you to have a continuous path to finish your own quilts, we invite you to the Orbital Quilting Architecture. We have other programs, workshops, and all kinds of fun stuff with free motion quilting education. You can check them on the link on the description below. And I want to see your quilts, so please tag us, comment on this video, send us photos, because we want to cheer all your free motion quilting new skills, because we know this is just the beginning of a very fun and very rewarding journey.
So we'll see you on the flip side.